We are starting with Raw, as Cody Rhodes hit the ring to another thunderous ovation to kick off the show, and made clear that he hates undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Rhodes said he acts the part of a champion because the actual title holder is not around, and vowed that he will win at WrestleMania after being screwed out of the gold 1 year ago. That was before The Rock made a surprise appearance to the chants of "holy shit" as he and Rhodes stared each other down, and Rock whispered something in Cody's ear. Rock walked away, this time to a chorus of boos, in a great way to kick off Raw, as it gave fans a new mystery surrounding whatever it was Rock said to Rhodes. The whispering in Cody's ear was a great way to infuriate the crowd eager to know what was said, and when asked by Jackie Redmond, Rock told her to ask Cody Rhodes. When she did just that, Cody said that The Rock had made a promise, though one he was sure that the Great One would be unable to fulfill. Much later in the show, Jey Uso defeated Shinsuke Nakamura in the main event of Raw, and a brawl broke out backstage involving Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Solo Sikoa, and Jimmy Uso. The Rock appeared out of nowhere and began a one-sided beatdown on Cody Rhodes, and he destroyed the exhausted Cody in every possible way. This assault was one of the most one-sided, most vicious assaults we've seen in decades, and it all culminated on the roof of the arena where it was raining. By this point, the Great One busted open Cody badly and revealed that he told the latter he would have his blood on his belt, and he had fulfilled that promise on the show. And what belt are we referring to? To take a shot at Cody and his mother, he had a belt saying "Mama Rhodes" and wiped Cody's blood on the belt with his bare hands. The Rock's assault on Cody was a graphic, disturbing scene, and also managed to be one of the greatest endings to Raw in years. The assault on the American Nightmare was an epic conclusion to Raw, and this was another sign of The Rock carrying Cody's feud with Roman Reigns more than the latter. After Monday Night Raw went off the air, the Rhodes family responded to the attack, with AEW's Dustin Rhodes taking to Twitter to call The Rock a son of a... Brandy Rhodes added that The Rock better keep his security detail tight at WrestleMania, or seemingly risk being the victim of an assault of his own. At 6 minutes long, this beatdown was a strong message to Cody ahead of WrestleMania, and like we said, has to go down as one of the best Raw endings in some time. In fact, the entire episode was incredibly paced, and though the matches were short, the segments, especially this one, more than made up for it. Of course, an episode of Raw in Chicago couldn't go ahead without an appearance from CM Punk in his first appearance after announcing his triceps injury back in January. In front of his hometown crowd, Punk acknowledged the immense support and loud chants raining down on him before grabbing the microphone to begin his verbal tirade. Punk started by making clear he'll be at WrestleMania 40 and stated that there have been a lot of suggestions about his role at the show of shows. Punk then turned his attention to the comments made by Roman Reigns about him on the Pat McAfee show, as well as his heated ongoing feud with Seth Rollins. Punk even brought up his rival from almost a decade ago, The Rock, before focusing on the man who has been insulting him for weeks and who's responsible for his injury, Drew McIntyre. Despite being injured, Punk called him out for a fight, but Drew continued to circle around the ring to recollect past events as the verbal back and forth went on. Punk's other heated rival and World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins, who is set to defend against McIntyre at WrestleMania, also came out and decided to join the conversation. Seth also questioned CM Punk's role at WrestleMania. He minced no words to let him know that no matter what he did in Philadelphia, he must not get in the way of their match. With that said, Punk agreed to be on commentary for the match between Rollins and Drew McIntyre and exited the ring, seemingly ending the segment. Drew would not let him have the final word, only to have Seth Rollins lay him out with a kick and a brutal stomp to mark the actual end of the segment. There was clear ad-libbing, some great back and forth, and the crowd was there for all of it, and this felt like a big-time segment that is setting up a big-time match just 2 weeks away. What are your thoughts on CM Punk being on commentary for Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre's match at WrestleMania 40? Will he interfere in the bout? Sound off in the comments. CM Punk wasted no time in delivering an epic promo on this week's Raw, but some of what he had to say to Chicago went too far for WWE's broadcast partners. When discussing his WrestleMania role, the fans chanted for Punk to be the referee, but he admitted he couldn't be impartial with Rollins and McIntyre, saying both were dipshits. McIntyre, who was sitting while Punk addressed Seth, immediately pointed out that the comment was not PG and was technically against the rules. Of course, since returning to WWE, The Rock has seemingly not cared about the policies regarding cursing on WWE TV, and even when he's being censored, the fans know what he said. While WWE has moved away from the strict PG era that the company shifted to after 2007, there still has been an adherence to some basic rules, which includes restricting curse words. On this week's Raw, though, Cody Rhodes didn't seem interested in following the rules, as he discussed The Rock and Roman Reigns being unhappy about WrestleMania. Cody said the pair were unhappy that they could not face each other at the show, but said that their potential match would have been a wank fest, which was not censored on the live broadcast. You can tell WrestleMania is near when WWE bends their rules like we saw this week, as excitement continues to build ahead of the biggest two nights of the wrestling calendar. Now, CM Punk's segment in Chicago was always going to be one to watch, and his presence at this week's Raw featured plenty of references to stories, both past and present. If you know CM Punk, you know he's infamous for sitting cross-legged on the ground, which McIntyre has repeatedly done since Punk's injury in January. He did so once again on Raw as he sat atop the announce table for most of the segment, and as Punk left the ring, McIntyre muttered some lines about how Punk is Drew's biggest stan. Punk, according to Drew, is being kept relevant by McIntyre, and the Stan line refers to the Eminem hit Stan about a fan who idolized a rapper and wrote him letters. Punk has been McIntyre's biggest fan, according to the Scotsman himself, and the line could also be a nod to how people looked up to Punk, but their views changed after meeting him. In his promo, Punk rattled off a few names talking about him, including Rollins and McIntyre, but one person who hasn't been speaking about him is The Rock. When speaking about the final boss not addressing his return, Punk used the line, "His arms were too short to box with God," a nod to the infamous Punk promo on The Rock in 2013. The line comes from James Weldon Johnson's poem, which references two sons and parallels how everyone has to confront someone better or stronger in their lives one day. Sometimes that person is their own mortality, and due to how both stars are known for their promos, Punk was likely to claim victory in verbal spats from 10 years ago. During the segment, McIntyre said that he was always the chosen one, and he'd be just that at WrestleMania when he becomes World Heavyweight Champion in front of Punk. Punk wasted no time in yelling, "Who made you the chosen one? What paragon of good virtue made you the chosen one?" But McIntyre only smiled, and the segment went on. That line concerns Vince McMahon, as the lawsuits and revelations have unearthed how unsavory things were under the former chairman, making the reference on Raw truly shocking. This week's Raw was a stacked show to say the least, but WWE made an unfortunate mistake in promoting of one match in particular. Ahead of the show, WWE advertised the Andrade vs. Ivar match, saying fans can tune in to see the in-ring return of the former NXT champion. The obvious issue with that is that this isn't Andrade's in-ring return, as he competed on Raw earlier this month with a victory over Apollo Crews. The post was quickly deleted, but not before fans had a chance to screenshot the offending tweet, and unfortunately the match with Ivar would never take place at all. Later on, Raw GM Adam Pearce announced that Andrade would instead be facing Giovanni Vinci, and on Twitter, Ivar said that he did not like sitting on the sidelines. Andrade's match with Ivar was nixed because the big man was not medically cleared to compete, and we hope to have an update on his condition very soon. As for Andrade vs. Vinci, this was another solid, competitive match in a show full of them, which saw El Idolo score the victory and continue to build on his momentum. Andrade is back at a time when there's no obvious place for him on the WrestleMania card, which is why keeping him strong through Raw matches is an essential for the ex-AEW star. This will bide him time and create goodwill among fans while Triple H and the creative team decided what they want to do with him in the wake of his return to WWE. The rivalry between Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch came to major blows on Monday Night Raw after Mommy made things entirely personal to get the edge over the man. Ripley, flanked by Dominic Mysterio, made her way down to the ring to address Becky Lynch, who according to the WWE Women's World Champion was not giving her her full attention. Ripley mentioned that, unlike Becky, she can make the world buzz about her without even stepping into the ring every week, which led to Lynch coming out to confront her. This set off a massive verbal back and forth between the two, but it was the champion who got the line of the night with a shot not at Lynch, but rather at her daughter Rue. Ripley said that once she decimates her at the show of shows, Lynch's daughter Rue would be calling her mommy instead, which was a step too far for the man. Lynch was angry but held back her punch and warned Rhea to never mention her daughter again while becoming emotional on the fact that her late father never got to see his granddaughter. Following some more verbal assault, Becky finally unleashed her wrath by first punching Dominic Mysterio and leading to an all-out brawl between herself and Ripley. Things have been more heated than ever between Mommy and the man, and expect a match of the night candidate when these two face off in Philadelphia next weekend. Right now, Liv Morgan isn't confirmed for a match at WrestleMania, but there's some who feel she should be part of the Women's World Title contest. Morgan is the most recent superstar to pin Rhea Ripley and has been feuding with Becky Lynch recently, and now a current superstar has called for her inclusion. Speaking with Ella J of SE Scoops, Valhalla said she wouldn't be surprised if Liv gets added, and as a friend and fan of Morgan, would love to see her get the spot. Do you feel Liv Morgan deserves to compete in the Women's World Championship match at WrestleMania 40, or should the match stay as it is? Sound off in the comments section below. In recent days, Ronda Rousey has been outspoken about her time in WWE, and in a recent interview said she had to hide a history of concussions in order to continue competing. WWE thankfully takes concussions seriously these days, which was not always the case, but now Rousey has claimed she was concussed by none other than Stephanie McMahon. Speaking to Cage Side Seats, Rousey said that a slap by Stephanie at Elimination Chamber 2018 led to her suffering a concussion, and admitted she didn't want to speak up at the time. The reasoning being that Rousey was worried how WWE knowing of her concussion could affect her scheduled matches, and she'd been hiding her concussions before coming to WWE. Rousey also mentioned getting an open hand slap from Nikki Bella in the days leading up to their match at Evolution, which left her seeing stars and with a headache for the rest of the day. Rousey even told Triple H that she simply could not be associated with mediocrity, and also accused WWE of discriminating against women for resources. With her career in the ring behind her, Rousey will continue to speak her mind, and we expect more revelations to come, especially with her book set to release next month. At WrestleMania 39, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair put on a war for the SmackDown Women's title, which saw Ripley win the gold that is today called the Women's World title. Many called it one of the best matches of the night, but this was a match that WWE wanted to cut short, at least according to Ronda Rousey, who said in her Cage Side Seats interview, "They weren't supposed to go that long. The whole time the referee is telling them to go backstage, and Charlotte threw her big on the table and said, no, we're gonna do this awesome match. And that's what the women are dealing with. They're not allowed to show how amazing they are because, oh, the crowd's gonna be tired for the guys' match afterward. That's bullshit." Rhea has dominated ever since winning her title at that match, but what do you make to the idea that WWE wanted to cut the bout short? Let us know down below. In a surprising moment on Raw, Big Bronson Reed not only won a match, but he did so against an opponent with significant momentum going into WrestleMania, that being Sami Zayn. The big man capitalized on the presence of Intercontinental Champion Gunther and the distraction it caused to put Zayn away, earning some momentum of his own. Gunther had planted the seeds before the match, telling Kathy Kelly that he did not believe Zayn could beat Reed, and he had to prove his words accurate by any means necessary. In the process, he ensured that Zayn would not roll into WrestleMania with a wave of momentum, enhancing the story between the champion and challenger ahead of Philadelphia. In tag team action, what could have been a show stealer between DIY and the New Day instead descended into chaos as the Judgment Day jumped both teams, drawing a no contest. The Miz and R-Truth got up from the commentary table and joined the fray, but were no match for the United Heels, who stood tall to close the segment. This was hype for the six-pack ladder match at WrestleMania, and little else, as the Heels stood tall to give them an edge, given the fact that it feels like their title reign is nearing its end. During a recent WWE live event, Rhea Ripley went viral when she stink-faced Nia Jax, and there's no shortage of people who wish they were in Jax's place for the spot. Turns out Shayna Baszler is one of those people, as at the following night's event, Jax, Baszler, and Ripley were in a triple threat, and the Queen of Spades begged for the stink face from Rhea. Baszler placed herself in the corner and was eager to get up close and personal with Mommy's buttocks, but Nia Jax would spoil things for Shayna by interrupting with an attack on Ripley. Shayna Baszler has dated both men and women in the past and was clearly in a flirty mood with Ripley at this event, showing you never know what may happen at a WWE live event. Legal news now, as ex-WWE star Ted DiBiase Jr. was set to stand trial on July 16th over his involvement in a huge welfare fund scandal in Mississippi, but the trial has been postponed. Instead, the jury trial against DiBiase Jr. will now be on January 7th, and we'll have to see what the verdict is for the former World Tag Team Champion. Monday Night Raw saw a cameo appearance from Paul Heyman, who, in the background of an Awesome Truth segment, was seen speaking with none other than Drew McIntyre. On Instagram, Heyman continued to build speculation as to what the pair discussed, and we have to imagine it'll play into what transpires next weekend at WrestleMania 40. In our opening match of the night, Ricochet went 3-0 against the Judgment Day in recent weeks when he defeated JD McDonough. The match was a grueling battle, far better than anyone would have expected, even with the immensely talented individuals involved in the contest. On commentary, Michael Cole called Ricochet quick as a puma, in a nod to Ricochet's days as Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, a nod that will have gone over the head of many fans. Dominic Mysterio's incessant interference nearly cost Ricochet the victory on more than one occasion, but he was eventually caught and booted from ringside by the referee. Ricochet followed up with a shooting star press on McDonough for a win, and even in defeat, the Irish Ace impressed against his veteran opponent. This match was casually thrown out there by Triple H, but served to remind everyone that McDonough can work and is not just the laughingstock of the Judgment Day. A good, hard-fought match that kept the crowd invested thanks to the efforts of the superstars involved. This was the right way to kick off the in-ring portion of Raw in Chicago. We know that the Windy City appreciates great wrestling and got it in this match, which also helped to support the notion of a Ricochet push in the post-WrestleMania season. Seeking revenge for her friend Maxine Dupree, Ivy Nile squared off with Candice LeRae, but the Poison Pixie was seemingly injured during the contest. That injury, however, turned out to be a ruse, as LeRae got the cheap roll-up to win this short match that was more about continuing her heel turn than anything else. And that was this week's Raw. And what did you make of the show as we continue on the road to WrestleMania 40? Let us know in the comments, and thanks for watching.